Hello everyone! You can surf the internet all you want, but you can't know everything about the world. Do you know, for example, what this driver is doing? This method is used on railway lines in Thailand and some other countries to avoid collisions. The driver receives the token from the duty officer at the departure station and hands it to the duty officer at the arrival station, who gives a signal through a special device. The duty officer can only remove the token if the line is clear, so the system prevents trains from colliding with each other. We bet we can still surprise you today. Deal? Then let's get it on. If you are afraid of traveling by plane, we have found a very convincing reason to calm your fears a little. This is an aircraft emergency turbine, a small propeller that is used in the event of main engine failure. Imagine, you travel to Alaska, you're walking around town, spot a cute cat, bend down to pet it, and right away you're arrested for trying to kill the mayor. Sounds absurd, but that could very well happen in the small town of Talkeetna. Meet Stubbs, the cat who spent 20 years as mayor. He was elected as a kitten in 1997 and has since become a celebrity. The mayor was visited by famous journalists and received up to 40 guests each day at his residence. For lunch, Stubbs would go to a nearby restaurant where he drank catnip water from a fancy glass. The mayor passed away in 2017 at the age of 20, but rumor has it that the city still won't tolerate closed doors in his memory. But this is not the only animal mayor in the United States. In 2014, a dog named Duke took over as mayor of Cormorant Village, Minnesota. Residents loved the new mayor and re-elected him 3 times. However, in the summer of 2018, Duke announced that he was retiring, and 6 months after his retirement, the ex-mayor passed away. It's almost impossible to understand what's going on here, but fortunately, we have an explanation. What you're watching is an official pinning ceremony for promotion to sergeant. The soldier has the right to choose the location of the ceremony. In this case, someone has decided to stand out and have the ceremony in a pool. Whether he will succeed in his career is not yet known, but one thing's for sure, his fellow soldiers and his commanding officer will remember him for a long time. You should drink a digestion, because we're going to visit the world's unhealthiest food restaurant. Welcome to Heart Attack Grill, a Las Vegas restaurant owned by American John Basso. And honestly, if we didn't know who the founder was, we'd think the idea belonged to a crazy grandma. The fast food served here is simply staggering. For example, there's a 20,000 calorie burger on the menu. That's the weekly norm for a grown man. And that's not all. If you don't finish your food, you get spanked on well, you can see it on the screen. So remember that not only your wildest adventures will stay in Vegas, but also your great shape. Candies and chocolate bars in every color are no surprise nowadays. Thanks to food coloring, confectioners can obtain any shade. But would you believe us if we told you there's a pink chocolate created without food dye? It is called Ruby because of its light red color. It was discovered a few years ago by a well-known Belgian manufacturer. According to him, Ruby chocolate is created from special cocoa beans, which differ from the usual beans by their pink color and specific taste. Incidentally, the recipe for this chocolate is a well-kept secret, as is what happens on the plantations where the special cocoa beans are grown. However, you may have tasted Ruby chocolate if you've ever bought a pink Kit Kat. Meet a couple that will rival the most legendary duos, such as Batman and Robin or Han Solo and Chewie. Surprisingly, coyotes and badgers occasionally hunt together. They both feed on rodents and sometimes help each other out. The agile coyote stalks its prey on the ground. If the rodent enters a burrow, the badger intervenes. It digs into the ground and pulls out its prey, which falls into the clutches of its mate. Of course, these two won't save the world, but nothing brings friends together like a good meal. Have you ever seen an illusionist straightening a bent spoon or a nail in his hands? Sorry if we spoil the effect of the trick, but this phenomenon is called shape memory effect and has nothing to do with magic. Some metal alloys have these properties, the most famous of which is nitinol. If an object made with these alloys is bent and then heated, It will remember its original shape and take it. By the way, these materials are actively used in everyday life, in medicine, automotive, and other industries. Don't be alarmed, but the words carnivorous bees are not the title of a horror movie, but a very real phenomenon. Fortunately, these insects only feed on carrion, so there's nothing to worry about. Well, at least for now. Visually, vulture bees are hard to distinguish from ordinary bees, except for their behavior and lack of sting. They also have very weak mandibles, so they cannot bite into pieces of meat. They release saliva onto the meat to turn it into a mushy mess. Wait, do they produce honey? Of course they don't. Although that idea would be great for a movie about these creatures. How can you organize a creative funeral? Anna Citelli and Raoul Bretzel have the answer. Their idea consists not in an unusual ritual, but in the possibility to commemorate yourself and help nature at the same time. The essence of the innovation is that, after death, the person is placed in a capsule in fetal position, buried in the ground, and a tree is planted on top. In this way, the remains act as a fertilizer. Hopefully these guys won't find out about vulture bees. Maternity leave is usually for mothers, but not in the case of midwife toads. Here is the happy father, carrying the future tadpoles on his back. When the eggs are fully mature, the male enters the pond and releases them into the world. Although this method seems a bit unfair, as female midwife toads are much larger and stronger than males. But what are we talking about? The story of the marsupial mice is even more incredible. The males have such a weak immune system that they die after a single episode of mating, and the newborn mice seen on the screens remain with their mother for the first 3 months of their life. That's a hard family life, isn't it? Remember how much fun you had playing dodgeball when you were a kid? Now imagine you can get $65,000 for winning at this game. That's pretty cool, isn't it? All you have to do is become a professional ultimate dodgeball player. This is an extreme competition that takes place between teams at Sky Zone indoor trampoline parks around the world. Unfortunately, as of 2018, the competition has been suspended, and it is still unknown when it will resume. But at least we all have time to practice. Yes, you're not imagining things. This is actually a game of underwater rugby. It's a sport that has been around for 60 years, but is not very popular among the general public. The competition takes place in a deep pool with a basket on the bottom. The game involves 6 players on each team, who must shoot the ball into the basket. Underwater rugby may not seem like a very dynamic game, but those in the know say that the battles at the bottom of the pool can be tougher than in professional wrestling. We can hardly imagine modern life without many things. Contact lenses, for example, have been a part of our daily lives for a long time. And when we say a long time, we mean since about the 16th century. Does that sound crazy to you? But it's true. At that time, great minds like Leonardo da Vinci and Descartes realized that glass and water could correct some vision problems. Thanks to their discoveries in the 19th century, the first lenses appeared. But they were really made of glass. Imagine sticking a piece of solid material in your eye and having to walk around with it all day long. Doesn't sound like much fun, does it? People thought the same back then. So glass contacts were only used in rare medical cases until they were replaced by plastic contacts in the middle of the 20th century. They say that many brilliant ideas come from boredom, and here's an example. In the 1970s, ski resort workers got so bored with going down the slopes on an ordinary sled that they came up with shovel racing. Yes, with the shovels used for shoveling snow. Over time, the shovels were modified and people started waxing the underside to get more acceleration. Now the top speed of elite racers reaches 112 kilometers per hour.
All right, here you go. Mr. Noble, Lubbock, Texas boy. American skiing is a hobbyist. Yes, whoa! 51 miles an hour. 52, I think.
Be honest, are there any books that you didn't return to the library on time because you were too lazy to go there? Students at Tsinghua University in China don't have that problem anymore. Guys from the automotive engineering department have developed this little unmanned vehicle. All the students have to do is put their books in the smart car and it'll find the way back and take them to the right place. Reason number 294 to brag to your friends. Now you've seen what squid eggs look like. What you are seeing now is known as the Rebinder effect. Simply put, a solid body changes its mechanical properties when it comes into contact with an aquatic environment. Thus, underwater, a fragile cup does not break into pieces as it does in air, but simply turns into a sieve. Can you imagine what the weirdest soulmate of a person with arachnophobia is? You probably guessed it. It seems unthinkable, but there really are spiders that are afraid of other spiders. That's the conclusion scientists have reached after an experiment with jumping spiders. Using a 3D printer, the researchers created a model of a spider and observed the behavior of a real arthropod placed next to it. Interestingly, the spider flees in fear, even though it has never seen this creature before. Age test. Remember when modems were used instead of routers to connect to the internet? This is one of the oldest predecessors of this digital device. However, as you may know, in the 1960s there was no internet, so modems were used for telephone connection. If you thought this fish looked weird, you're absolutely right. It's a biohybrid fish created by Harvard scientists from plastic, gelatin, and human heart cells. Its caudal fin is composed of 2 layers of muscle cells on one side and one on the other. When one side contracts, the other stretches. The closed cycle of these actions allows the biorobot to swim autonomously in this solution and function for more than 100 days at a time. What for? It is hoped that scientists will learn more about the work of the human heart in this way. We still can't show you Wolverine's regeneration in real life, so you'll have to settle for a fabric with similar properties. See it for yourself. This jacket is made from a special material known as self-repairing nylon. If the fabric snags or tears, just rub it and voila! All in all, a must-have product for outdoor enthusiasts. We've already seen some scary spiders, so it's time to give people with trypophobia a hard time too. These strange creatures, which look like aliens or huge, brightly colored caterpillars, are actually chicks of the Goldeian finch. This unusual beak coloration serves as a peculiar signal to the parents. First, by the pattern and brightness, they can determine the state of health of their babies, and most importantly, they can easily locate them in the dark and feed them. Have you ever thought that plants can talk? Not with words, of course, that would be quite creepy. But some trees can communicate in other ways, such as by emitting gases. That's exactly what acacias, whose leaves giraffes feed on, do. No one likes to be eaten, so acacias emit ethylene, which scares off herbivores and alerts nearby trees of danger. These racing cars look a little too creative, don't you think? Let us introduce you to the hooded merganser. This is a bird that can reach an impressive speed of up to 81 kilometers per hour. For the safety of other birds, we wonder if there are speed limit signs or at least dividers between lines. We have found evidence that the Uchiha clan has been revived after all kidding aside. This is the work of Californian ophthalmologist Zach Goronzik. The doctor creates prosthetic eyes inspired by the characters of the famous anime Naruto. His collection includes more than 6 different glass eyes that Zach hand colors with special paints. But try not to stare at these eyes too long. What if the Sharingan works even through the screen? Many famous hockey teams have traditions associated with the game, but some of them are so bizarre that they evoke mixed feelings. For example, the Detroit Red Wings have had a custom for 70 years. Fans throw octopuses onto the ice. The tradition dates back to 1952, when players took to the ice in the Stanley Cup. The 8-limbed creature became a symbol of the number of playoff wins needed to take home the cup. Around that time, the first octopus was thrown onto the ice and the team won the competition. Since then, the custom has taken root, and occasionally fans of the rival teams throw lobsters, dead fish, and other miscellaneous objects in mockery. It is clearly a very controversial tradition. You might think someone stole this inflatable rat from a children's party, but the truth is much more complex. It's actually the so-called Union Rat, an inflatable toy used in the United States during union protests or strikes. It was first used as a symbol in 1989 by the members of the Union of Operating Engineers. Over time, it has become a sign for all supporters who oppose the hiring of non-union employees. It would probably be easy to guess who this grave belongs to, even without reading the inscription. But not everything is so simple. Marilyn Monroe did not ask for a pink plaque for her grave. It actually acquired this color because of the tradition of kissing the place where the sex symbol of the 1950s is buried. By the way, the slab next to it, with a similar shade, is the resting place of the founder of the world-famous adult magazine, Hugh Hefner. Perhaps it's a rare case where the story is equal parts creepy and romantic. This shark's ability would come in handy for the regular customers of that legendary restaurant. This is called stomach eversion. Although the whole process seems quite spine-tingling, it's actually an important ability for some species of sharks. In this way, they can get rid of excess food, cleanse their body of harmful substances and parasites, or escape danger by becoming lighter. That's it. So, did you learn anything new today? We promised you, didn't we? Give us a like and see you in the next video.